All right, welcome back to another episode of the More Than Outdoors podcast, the podcast where we talk about the people, places, and passions that drive Maine's outdoor recreation economy. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Austin French.
And I'm Sam Andrews.
And we are in a slightly different environment than we are normally in for these episodes, but we felt it was so fitting for our guest today. So we are down in Portland, Maine. I am not going to blow up the spot any more than that. But we have a super cool guest, and I think we're really bringing a totally different corner of the outdoor industry to the More Than Outdoors podcast today. So we have another Sam Roberts, who I have to make sure
it's a great name.
This episode, it's going to be a lot of eye contact to make sure that I'm asking the question of the right person. But so have Sam Roberts on. Sam, thank you so much for inviting us into your space and doing this conversation. I think we're going to have a ton of fun today.
Yeah.
So curious, everybody's got their kind of windy path of like how they end up in the outdoor rec world.
Yeah.
Right. And so fascinated, for our listeners who maybe don't know who you are, kind of who you are, what you do, and who you do it for with Sambob. And then just like, what was the path to kind of get to this point?
Yeah. So I'm Sam. My last name's Roberts, which is where the Bob comes from in Sambob. And we make fleece hoodies, fleece crew necks, joggers, mostly mid-layer stuff for people trying to get outside. We're really focused on just sort of getting whoever wants something from us, getting whatever they want. So trying to get them something custom if they need it, something colorful if they need it, something bland if they need it. So sort of really like trying to get people something that makes them feel good about going outside. So that's been kind of the goal from the beginning. It's just like trying to get people like the confidence to like feel good outside. And I think like clothing really can do that for people. And, a lot of outdoor apparel isn't directed towards everyone. It's directed towards like a smaller, group of, sort of the middle of the bell curve of people. And so I think we're trying to provide something more than that. And how I got here in the industry in general, it was kind of a windy path. My former sort of career was as a wildlife biologist. I studied geology in college and then found birds. I took an ornithology class and really fell in love with ornithology and field biology. Basically, it was just a way to be outside after graduating college, and I worked for a bunch of nonprofits sort of across the country doing conservation research mostly, focused on birds. So we were out there catching birds, banding them, measuring them, doing a lot of counting, sort of population monitoring. The owl logo in the Sambob logo is based on a photo that I took of saw-whet owls, which are these tiny little owls that we were catching up in Duluth, Minnesota, and we were catching thousands of them. And it just was something that I thought could be a kind of homage to my past. But when I started Sambob, I was still doing that job. I was working for the University of Delaware as a research associate, doing bird surveys in Utah and Western Colorado in the national parks there. And that job led me to like my love of backpacking in general, just because we had to be kind of in the backcountry a bunch. And we ended up living in Utah, me and my wife, for a few years. And there's just so much access to mountains out there. So that's where I started like doing sort of ultralight backpacking and learning about gear and like, spending a lot of time on a computer doing data analysis for the bird stuff, but then going out in my free time to backpack. And that led me to wanting to learn to sew, which sort of just snowballed into what it is today. Yeah. So, my former career was like sort of outdoor based, but it wasn't like in the industry. It was in conservation research. And then it led me to wanting to sort of be more involved in the outdoor industry on the maker side. So I learned to sew and during COVID, and a fleece was something I wanted to make, and I made it like multicolored, and people like that. And then I made a separate Instagram account, and just sort of like strangers started asking me for hoodies, and that's kind of where it like all began.
Cool. Really cool.
Wow. And so when you were like backpacking and probably like wearing some of the clothing that's made for people who like to recreate, were you like noticing that there was like something missing, or was it more like, this is fun and I can do this
Yeah.
and like I want to like make what I'm gonna wear, like
Yeah, the one thing that I like kind of had in my mind is what I wanted to make when I first learned to sew was an alpha, which is this fabric that we're both wearing here.
Yeah.
Alpha is like a very breathable, lightweight fabric. I wanted to do an alpha lined wind jacket, so just I was learning just that wind jackets are really useful. They're not waterproof, but they're super light. They can be really protective. But it would also be cool to have one that's insulated with alpha. So that was kind of the first project that I just had in mind in general, and was one of the first few projects that I made. It turns out it took me like 40 hours or something to make, and I made like 2 of them, and it was I'm sure they would take less time now, but they're not for sale.
Yeah, you're like not sustainable.
But that was the initial thing, and then honestly, just like having an artistic sort of outlet, kind of like creative outlet, was what kind of then kept me going. I think on it was just, I'd been in conservation research, and which is very like analytical and academic, and in the past I'd done a lot of sort of creative stuff just through school, like ceramics and painting and stuff, and yeah, I wanted to just be doing stuff with my hands and something creative, and this was like definitely that outlet, and just that's part of what kept me going with it, I think.
And what like spurred, I guess, you deciding like, I'm going to transition from this career to then like run with this business? Because that's like a really big leap, to be like, I'm
hard.
doing this now.
Yeah, it was really challenging. I mean, I felt I'm super lucky and privileged to have been able to have this other job while I was developing the business. The other job was like technically a full-time job, but it didn't really require me to work 40 hours a week. And it was really, really flexible. It was just work from home, computer work mostly. And so I neglected that job definitely some, and did a lot more sewing maybe than I would have if I'd had just, an office job or anything like that. And so that job allowed me to spend time and just put any money I made from Sambob back into the business. So I did that for basically 3 years. And that, I think it was a really, really cool way for me to grow the business. I've always been really proud of like the organic growth of the business, the slow growth, never making any decisions that are going to make or break the business, or like compromise like my morals and sort of what my goals for the business were. And I think having, the financial support of a different job really helped like be free in the sort of creative like growth of Sambob. But then we got to a point where I just needed more time for Sambob. It was just like it's just so hard to like split your brain like that, split your time like that.
Yeah.
As any parent knows. And so I basically got to a point where I was just like, I'm not enjoying my other job. I'm loving doing the Sambob. I also know I can make more money doing Sambob. Unfortunately, conservation research doesn't have much money in it. Sure. So my position was just, pretty much capped at what it was. And I was realizing, just sort of thinking ahead to what we're doing, as long as things like kind of keep going, and it takes a lot of time to get that confidence to do that. But we're coming up on 2 years of doing it full time, and yeah, been good.
And it's blown up, like we were talking about before on this, before the podcast. Of course, we get those like good conversations before we even start recording, but it's just really cool to see. I've been like following along like since you started, because I think it's awesome, and I've been rocking this for a little while, which is really cool, and we'll get into like collaborations, but you can see in the wall behind us like how many you've made. I assume these are like the custom orders.
This is like a fraction of them. We got we stopped, we got bored, we got tired. We were like, this is not worth our time just putting these on the wall anymore. But yeah, it's a good representation of just sort of the variety, and we're just a lot of people out there wearing them now.
That's really awesome. And I think that piece of like, when do you officially make the jump? Like that's a huge moment in time.
Yeah.
When you are that small business owner, and you've played the founder role, and you're trying to figure out like, okay, when is that point to like make that next step? And sometimes it does feel like you're just like, I'm gonna start dangling myself off the cliff here a little bit and go for it. But to your point, like I think there's something to be said, and I've noticed it a lot as I've talked with more people that are in that like entrepreneurial mindset, is like there is something about just like personal attributes that come into play when you're like, I can take this chance on myself because I will always bet on myself to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so once you can get somebody to like cross over that line, it's amazing what things can occur beyond that point.
Yeah, it's really hard, and I think like, I don't know, in some ways it feels a little bit outside my normal personality, and it's something that when I look back on like making that switch, I feel really proud of, because it like meant that I had a lot of like confidence in myself, and like that I believed in myself, and that's something that I think like a lot of people struggle with, and it's something I've struggled with for my whole life, and I think it's like it's a cool thing to be able to look back on and be like, you know, I took a risk on myself, I believed in myself, and it's worked out pretty well.
Totally, for sure.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's such a challenging thing, and I think it has really paid off for you, and it's still like you're able to kind of lean into the things that excite you. And I know you have like a long list of custom orders, but like I've noticed you've jumped into the joggers, and that's like another kind of creative outlet of like, oh, well, I'm going to try this and see if it works. And
yeah,
so,
it's constant sort of like going on to the next thing. You're always like, okay, I'm going to take this risk of spending $50,000 on some fabric and like really making a big batch and seeing like how that's going to go. And like, I think I'm still really proud of like we're growing to a point where we're just making these decisions that are, yeah, like $50,000 is a lot, but at this point, if that batch really failed, like the business wouldn't go out of business, and that's right. I feel really proud of like being able to grow it in that way, but it's still scary.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and it's you, right? And then it sounds like you've branched out where you have more support. Can you talk about what that support looks like?
So I have 2 part-time employees right now, which I love, and I just can't say enough good things about them.
Cool.
We are like a great trio in here. It's just sort of like coincidentally has worked out that way. Scylla's been here for 2.5 years now. She cuts all the fabric. She's basically like the production manager in here now. She knows sort of more of what's going on in here with the customs and stuff than I do, and sort of the process of like when things are due and all that. And so she cuts all the fabric. She does a lot of the sewing. We're gradually trying to get the 3 of us all on the sort of the same page of just doing everything, like so that people can like jump in and out of doing different parts of the process. So Scylla, amazing. The business would be nothing without her. And then Gordon, who started in the fall. He's a friend who just was looking for some part-time work and had never sewn before, and now he's surging and learning. He's learning to cut fabric and just doing more and more. And we listen to music, we chat, we put our headphones in. It's just a good vibe in here, so it's cool. Amazing. So yeah, those guys are I mean, I'd be screwed without both of them.
MVPs.
Can't say it enough. Yeah. And then I've started working with 2 factories, one in Massachusetts and one in North Carolina, to do batches of stuff. So basically, to be able to do any kind of wholesale or ready to ship stuff. We just got to a point where it's just like, there's people finding me, but there's nothing they can buy and just get, Right. And it's like when you find a new brand, you're not going to necessarily risk it on a custom that like you can't return, or that you can only get 50% back on if you need to return it. And so giving people the opportunity to come to the website, try something out. If they don't like it, they can return it. If they love it, they can come back for a custom. But quickly, just, at the capacity with the 3 of us, we can't be making those things. The other option would be to create my own little factory, like hire more people, like get a bigger space, buy a bunch of machines. But this space here is right next to my house, and I have a 4-year-old, and it's just really nice to be able to like the flexibility of this and not managing more and more people is kind of the goal right now. So
you're probably like more scaling it back in a way of like, I want to maintain this, but for the non-customs, but you have so many customer orders. Right?
Yeah. The goal is for us to just basically make custom stuff here. That can be individuals or for like group orders. And then all the ready to ship stuff is going to be based out of the 2 factories that are on the East Coast here.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then you're maintaining the microgrid fleece, which is kind of that classic style fleece. Like, I
Yeah.
wonder if we can, if there's, I'm sure there's some of it, like,
We
right
got some
behind
micro
me.
good around here, yeah, like one of these.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a classic.
Yep. So it's just sort of like a classic fleece style, you know, in terms of thickness and warmth and like the, you know, breathability. So compared to something like the Alpha, which has become the primary part of our business now, is super breathable, really lightweight, like breathes well when you're moving, keeps you warm when you stop. There's a few different weights of it. This is the 90, and then there's a lighter, which is a 60, and the heavier, which is 120. And so we do custom for these as well, but this is mostly what we're making for ready to ship stuff. And it's become, it's like, yeah, it's very hot right now amongst, you know, it started out more with small makers and then has grown into larger brands that are using it a lot more. And yeah, it's like 90% of what we do basically. It's just like making Alpha.
It's a game changer. Like, I absolutely love it. Like, it's so light. Like, I wish I could just explain. Like, you can literally crumple it into a ball.
Very packable.
It's so packable. It's so light. It's so breathable.
Yep.
It's like,
so that's why, yeah,
really
I mean,
unique.
Yeah, and so my primary customer base has been historically backpackers and thru hikers and stuff, and so that's why it's just, you know, people love it for that, and it's become, the fabric that thru hikers are mostly wearing. Packable, breathable, hydrophobic.
Fun colors, fun patterns.
Yeah, and that's kind of what sets us apart, is like, having some options.
It's expressive.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when we were talking to Amber.
Oh, yeah.
And she was talking about, like, how art is, and why she loves to, like, paints on whitewater rafting helmets. And how, like, this is such a great way for people to kind of, like, spice up their outfits and, like, express themselves in outdoor recreation. And as a guide, like, being able to have something that sets yourself apart.
Totally.
And I feel like this is very similar. Like, it's kind of, like, speaking to that.
Totally. Yeah, and it's, like, it, like, indicates to other people around you, like, kind of what your vibe is, like, how you might, you know, this is approachable, right here, versus, like, black might just be like, maybe you're not, like, it doesn't shout, like, come talk to me.
Totally. I know, I need more black.
Whether you like it or not, yeah.
I'm like, don't come talk to me. Oh, it's so great.
Well, and how much, like, because obviously there's so much momentum happening in, like, the outdoor rec economy as a whole in Maine.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would be curious, because admittedly, you're the first, like, maker that we've really had on the podcast. So I would be curious about your perspective of coming from, like, that side of the industry and being part of so much of this growth, right? Because, I mean, like, last year, I think the year-over-year numbers were, like, the outdoor rec economy grew by 14% in the state.
Yeah.
So, curious about your perspective, because I think we're so fortunate to be in a state where we have both the manufacturers and makers, the service providers, the experiences, you know, then you get into the whole nonprofit side of, like, all the conservation work that's happening. Like, so we have all of the elements that make up the outdoor rec economy compared to maybe some other states that don't have that piece as much. So just curious about, like, your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, being in Maine does feel really special as a maker. I think, like, just being in Maine in general, like, is a better selling point than almost any other state, I think, in the country, which is, I can't really put my finger on why, but, like, there's a couple states out there. I think Montana is one. I think Vermont kind of as well, but, like, there's just something sort of, like, it's pretty, you know, sort of rural to the rest of the country in a lot of ways, but, like, rural in, like, a more fun way than some other states maybe. And I just think, like, saying, like, a product's made in Maine, like, goes a lot farther than in a lot, you know, product made in Massachusetts, like, nobody cares. But Maine, I think, is, like, feels special, and it's somewhere, you know, it's vacation land for a reason. And so it's alluring, I think. In terms of, like, the growth, like, you know, thinking about the growth of, like, the economy in general, it's a little hard for me to have some perspective on it, because just the brand has been growing as well, and so it's hard to separate those things. You know, I've noticed a lot, like, it's really noticeable to me, the growth of the brand recognition basically is just a lot higher than, like, say, a year ago. I get, you know, I reach out to retailers every now and then just to try to pick up some more wholesale accounts, and between last year and this year, like some of the same ones who didn't respond or said like they weren't interested are now like saying like their employees have suggested it, or they've like started following me and they're like into it, or they've heard of Alpha and like now they want to carry some. And so that's some sort of growth that I've seen like in the business, and just maybe like some more like, I mean, most honestly just like growth of like popularity of Alpha in general. Yeah,
that's cool.
In your brand.
Yeah.
People hear about Sambob.
Yeah.
Through social media, maybe.
Social media, just,
Word of
literally
mouth.
just like the more hoodies you get out there, the more people are seeing them.
Yeah.
Like they're unique. Like a lot of them are unique, and so people will ask. And I finally started putting the tag on the front and not the back.
Yeah,
so
behind the
that
hood.
helps. Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I like behind the hood.
Yeah,
I get it.
subtle, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart, because it's like, I mean, especially when you're recreating, it's like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
I want that. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
And like a lot of us nerds who are curious about gear, that's how it spreads.
Yeah.
So that's how I ask questions.
Right. Yeah. We have an extremely like captive audience, because most of the time when that question comes up, you are in the outdoors, and inevitably it's also when like some piece of gear that they have is not currently working, and they're like, what are you wearing?
Totally.
Yeah.
I know this year I was just down at Trail Days in Virginia, the Appalachian Trail Days, and it's like, it was my second year, and it's so fun, and a lot of people come through. It's like 20,000 people come into this town. It's normally like 800. And
Wow.
I sold a ton, and it was helpful that it was a little chilly on Thursday and Friday. But also just I got a lot of hikers saying like, oh, like a few of my friends hiking like are wearing these and like really want one. Like some of it's that they like the Sambob part of it, like the colors and all that. Some of it's just the Alpha. Like either way, like it was a good time, and like just noticeably like different than last year, I think.
That's cool.
That's
cool.
Yeah.
And so that was like one thing that you're leaning into. Have you been to any other like conferences, or even I wanted to chat about like collaborations? Cause, like my Sambob is a collab with Jordan Kendall Parks.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering, like, and I know with Kindling Collective, and so there's just so many people that you're working with, and part of the beauty of this industry is like the collaboration across the sectors. So
for collaborations, I mean, I'm always looking for collaborations, and like I'm definitely not collaborating with everyone that I'm in touch with. Like you get a lot of sort of, I don't know, random like Instagram people messaging you and like creators and stuff that it's just not, it doesn't like make sense for the brand. But usually, I mean, honestly, the best ones have been based in Maine. So working with Kindling Collective, we did like a sort of, they chose a pattern, and we did a pre-order and donated a percentage of that to them, and it was like had a little Kindling Collective tag on it. And we've done, last year we donated sun hoodies to all their leaders, like trip leaders, as well as like some hoodies just to have in their library for participants who come on trips and aren't bringing maybe the correct gear. So people bringing cotton shirts or whatever, like sweatshirts, and so having an option for people who maybe just mispacked has been a cool thing to just have for them. And then next week we're going to be doing some Pride hoodies. We're going to be releasing 2 styles of Pride hoodies that will 10% of those the sales from those will go to Kindling Collective and the work they're doing. So,
and we got to see them when we showed up, and they're really cool.
So we got a couple, so it should be fun. And then like doing these, I think doing these artist collaborations have been really cool. We can print on Alpha, and so working with artists to create like a special print that we do a sort of limited run of. With Jordan, and we've done they haven't all been, I don't think we've done any other Maine artists, but we've done a few other artists that are sort of like in the hiking community, and those are just a cool way to like work with other creatives and help. We just I think any collaboration is just a great way to lift each other up, and whether it's like donating money to Kindling Collective or just like cross promotional stuff like this, it's a fun way to just like meet new people, honestly.
Well, and it's really unique. Like, admittedly, until Sam had mentioned to me like kind of the artist collab that was with hers, like I had never really thought about that ability to like take that kind of artistry and then like bring it directly onto a piece of clothing. Right? Because normally like that's just not the that's not the order of operations.
Yeah,
when you're like,
totally. And it's getting easier and easier just with like technology of like, you know, textiles and stuff. And so like Flowfold does a lot of that stuff too. They did one with her recently as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
And yeah, it's just a great way to meet up with other people. And then you were asking about going to other events and things. Like I'm honing in on like what really works and what's worth the time.
mm-hmm.
There was one year, I think 2 years ago, I went to like, 15 or so like markets and like sort of events, and a lot of them were in Maine or Portland, and a few of them were like crafty markets, like part of the caravan series or whatever, and I found those were not really necessarily the right scene to be in, because there are a lot of potters there, a lot of printmakers, which is great, but most people going to those things aren't looking to buy like $100 hoodies.
Right.
So instead, focusing more on either holiday time markets or events that are really focused towards the outdoors. So I went to like a climbing festival. That was great. Appalachian Trail Days is great. But now doing sort of more of those focused ones. Also gone to some like conventions and like trade shows with the Maine Outdoor brands.
Oh, yeah.
And so working with Maine Outdoor brands has been just like really great, like in all ways. The people, the employees that they have, Brian, Jenny, and Liz, and Evan, have been amazing, just helpful just to chat with about everything.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with Brian on photography and stuff as well. But also the organization helps smaller brands attend these events by renting out larger booths, and then we get a portion of it, and it costs way less. Mm-hmm. And there are things that I just wouldn't go to otherwise. And even like coming up, they're going down to Switchback, which is in New Orleans. I can't go myself, but I'm sending them some gear. Ponch is going to rep it, and
nice.
Hopefully pick up retailers too. But even if we don't, it's just a good way to like get your name out there in a way that's like affordable for a small brand.
Totally.
Yeah, and like lean on the people who are willing to help you.
Yeah, totally.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious about like the small market, the like small batch making versus like when you're competing against like, I don't know, these really big companies. Like I know Outdoor Research makes kind of like a microgrid.
Mm-hmm.
And like what sets you apart, or like how can you compete with those bigger brands, and do you?
I mean, I'm definitely not competing with them. Like I'm not, I'm like obviously, yeah, we're taking a little bit of business away from them. But it's not, it's just not competition for them at all. I guess they are competition for me, but I'm not competition for them, and that's kind of how I've had to think about it. It's challenging. I mean, I think luckily a lot of people out there want to support a small business. Mm-hmm. Also, Maine is special, as we've already talked about, so that helps. But I think just like, people want to support a small business, and so that's literally the only way we can compete, is just trusting that people are going to continue to want to do that and search that out. And I think a lot of the people in my community of Sambob are like-minded with me and sort of wanting to do that. And I'm also in sort of right now it's sort of a little bit niche in terms of like the alpha. It's like it's definitely getting picked up by a lot of larger brands. I mean, Nike has one. They've actually had alpha hoodie for a couple of years. But I think like, especially in the thru hiking community, people like to buy from people who are doing the same things as them. So I'm not thru hiking the AT, but I've done a lot of backpacking. They know that I'm the one like designing it and oftentimes making it. And so I think like there's enough people out there that like that connection, that like close connection with the people that are making it. They'll allow us to like compete with the larger brands. I mean, it's kind of always changing. I think like new brands emerge, like other small brands emerge and, blow up, and maybe it feels like competition for me, but like trying to make sure that I'm always offering something unique and like staying true to like the principles that have gotten me to where I am. And so, the base of the business is, custom apparel. Like you can always come to us and get exactly what you want in terms of colors, and we try to do sizing as well as we can for people. And, and as we grow, we're trying to grow the inventory and have more just available for people to like try out with us. And like, why would they try us as opposed to somebody else? I think it's just sort of like, you know, the uniqueness of the personal side of the, you know, I think the business is really personal. And so you see the brand and you see mostly that it's me, and like some people like that and they'll try it out. Some people don't and they move on, or they troll me. But it's like, I think it's just sort of sticking with what's worked and trying to adapt as you go. And you never know what's going to happen. And how it's going to change. And you can't like stress about that too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big reason why I wanted to support this business, is because I was like, oh, there's like one guy behind the sewing machine and like making these really cool fleeces. Like, that's awesome. And like when I was talking to you about maybe collabing with Colby and the outdoor programs that I'm running, like, I want these students to understand the impact when you spend money at a small business in Maine, and like there's really cool things happening in this industry in the state, and like this is a way to do it. So it's cool.
And I think like US made is very like impactful. I think like just more and more people are like feeling that's like feels important to them in terms of supporting businesses that are focused in the US. And like I try to be as transparent as possible about like where things are getting made, like what the process is, like paying like the people here like a livable wage. And I think that can go a long way. You know, it's like there's so many people out there in the world and in the US. Like, you know, I'm always like, oh, what if I run out of customers? But like that's never gonna happen. And so there's enough people within that group that are into supporting this type of business versus like buying outdoor research. Might do that just because it's easy and cheaper and that fits into your budget, or just like you don't really think about who you're buying from that much. And that's most people. But there's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of people who are down to like try to support small.
Yeah. Well, and like looping back into the collaborations piece, like looking at other small businesses as well, that like they're having that same mindset, right? So now like you get to kind of have both of those paths cross together. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that only amplifies like both of your customer bases, who you've already kind of identified, like these are the people that are making the decisions to purchase from the small business, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting, like I've never really thought about this like this, but like why do people support specific artists? You know, it's like, why support them as opposed to just buying like a painting you can get at Target, you know, just a random painting. It's like, those paintings you might like, but like oftentimes you're supporting a specific artist because you like their style, you like knowing who made it, you like seeing the progression of their work. And I think like I wouldn't say that I'm like an artist, like I wouldn't say these are pieces of art, but like in sort of the similar some of them are.
It was like they are.
But in a similar way, I think like you can translate that idea to like supporting a small brand that is evolving and making something unique maybe, and you know who's making it, and it feels good to own it in a way that like owning a piece of Nike might not.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and like I will say it for you, so you don't have to say it. Like you are not just making plain black hoodies.
Like, I can.
I mean, true. Custom.
You can custom order a completely black hoodie from Sambob.
If you don't want anyone to come up and talk to you. And honestly, they probably still will, because it will look cool no matter what.
One thing I would be curious about, because we've started to have a number of like small business owners on the podcast, and we've kind of asked all of them a similar question of just like, as more people are looking at going down that entrepreneurial path, like as someone who is now gone through the like, I did the startup phase, had the other job, I officially made the full transition over to like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
Like, what are those like little nuggets that you would want to leave with someone as they're thinking about like taking the first steps in that journey?
I think one of the things that I've like seen as a pattern as I've grown and like things have changed within the business is that like there's no like one way to do it. There's no like one way to be a successful business, and it depends a little bit on like what sector you're in and stuff, but like there's no one way to be like an apparel business. There is the most common way, and the way that you grow as if you want to grow into a huge brand, you know, thinking about the margins in a certain way and thinking about production in a certain way, but like you don't have to do it that way. And like, I think that's something I've run into where I've met people in the industry who have been a part of much larger businesses. They see what I'm doing here and they're like, I don't know, like you could do it a lot. Like if you bought this different fabric, you could make a lot more money doing this, or if you produced it in this way, like, I don't know, this is really inefficient. Like, are you really going to be able to grow doing this? And that really freaked me out in the beginning. And it made me feel like, well, no, I guess I can't, because like they are in the industry and they're like experts. But it's not true. I mean, it really just depends on what your perspective of what does growth mean to you? What does success mean to you? I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, you're trying to grow a business. You want to be a business. You want to be an apparel brand. And so that means you want to be as big as possible. You want to like eventually sell this thing for millions of dollars. And the way to do that is this path. And I think like my perspective is I want to do this. I want to build a community. I also just want to make a living. You know, I'm not trying to like grow into something huge and go like that traditional path. Maybe eventually we'll grow and like sort of evolve into something that like could be bought, but like that's not the goal right now. The goal is to make a living, provide like clothing for people, provide sort of a community around like what we're doing. And I think we've found a way to do it in this very inefficient way, but also have that is sort of the base of the business. So I'm talking sort of the custom stuff. It's like pretty inefficient, but it works and it is profitable. And then also having this other side where it's sort of ready to ship, we're outsourcing that stuff, and that's sort of been a long time like evolution, but it's not a path that I think larger brands take. And I think like just the ultimate point here is just that like you can be successful taking a less traditional path. You obviously have to like see if it's working, like if it's not profitable, if it's, you know, really inefficient, like in a way that's not going to work, like yeah, it might not work in that way, but I think like figuring out what your goals are, what your like definition of success for your business is like really important.
Yeah, that like your values, like you're always kind of going back to what's important to you and like why you started it in the first place.
Yeah.
I like heard that like community piece and the custom aspect, and like we're actually doing that at the as a podcast. Like, who do we want on the podcast, and do they align with what we care about?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's like it's so easy to see like as you grow, like why, you know, brands might not follow, larger brands won't follow the same sort of principles as you. Like it's easy to see like why people, I have no problem with outsourcing like overseas. There's a lot of great makers abroad. People, they're much more, they've been doing it for so much longer. They have a lot more like technology and stuff. But I think like it can lead to like poor like labor practices, and that can be something that's like it's just cheaper, and so that's why larger brands are doing that, and like sort of principles can be compromised like if you start doing that, and you can see why, just because, you know, as you grow you're just like, okay, every penny counts, and like the margins. And so I think yeah, I mean, you just have to make your own decisions on what matters to you, but I've been really proud of like making those decisions really slowly. I also know I've been really like privileged to be able to do that, and so it's not something that's always an option. But
yeah. Well, and a very common thread that I've seen too is like, unfortunately, a lot of like that sort of growth complex piece, unfortunately, also just comes like with over leveraging. Like, you know, like at some point, you know, if someone decides to make a really heavy investment up front, with or without whatever form of data that they felt like they really needed to make that kind of decision, and now you're kind of chasing your tail for a while, trying to like, you know, how do I make sure that like all of the people that need to get paid at the end of the month, like and so unfortunately, like sometimes that is also the factor of just like not necessarily like my values didn't change per se, but like all of a sudden I had to make this decision over here because like I got to make sure that the bills get paid, and the lights down.
I know, and I've been lucky. Like I've never had any investors or any debt or anything like that, and it's just been like just so slow growth. But
and I think that's important for people to hear, that like that is a path you can actually take. Yeah, because unfortunately, like coming from where I live, like teaching business courses and things like that. Yeah, it's like speed is always the most desired outcome. Right. And so there are plenty of different mechanisms to like use that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, right, like it ends up taking a bunch of people down some paths that maybe they didn't
Yeah.
desire.
Yeah. I mean, God, I'm so glad I don't have to start a business from scratch. Like it's just so much has happened between beginning and now, and like I just being in a different situation. Like I just feel like I think probably a lot of people feel this way, but there's just been so much like luck and like the people I meet and like the interest that people have, and it's just something that's like really, it's just so unique to what I have, and I don't know how I would do it again, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna try, but like, but it's every situation is gonna be different, and so I get a lot of people being like, so how did you get like followers? Like, why do you have whatever however many followers? Like, and it's like I don't know, Instagram, like Instagram during COVID, like people latched on. It was something unique about the brand, and but I can't like there's no like I didn't do anything. It's one thing that made that happen. And,
yeah, but you were present in that space, which unfortunately,
oh, yeah.
you have a lot of people that will ask that question.
Yeah,
and they have no desire to put in
I know.
work to get
so
to that
much.
point.
Yeah, a lot of the brand is for better or worse me like doing selfie videos. I recently bought a mic, so it's pretty cool. Yeah. Really professional.
You're like, are
now.
you holding the mic
I just
now?
started doing that. Yeah, it works.
It does, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. You got to put yourself out there.
I mean, so I recently discovered that there's a reason there's like a whole marketing industry out there. I like previously hadn't really done much like official marketing. It's mostly just like me on Instagram, occasionally like boosting a post and seeing what happens. But I'm like sort of doing this like program that's like education and coaching on how to run meta ads, which is like feels so evil, but like necessary to like grow your audience right now, especially because mine is so based in Instagram. And so I started doing that, and like, yeah, it's a lot more like talking into the, whatever. But it works. I mean, it like things have really, changed in the last couple of months just from running ads, in a more like pointed way.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Which has been kind of crazy.
It has come up on our podcast too. We were talking to a fly fishing guide, Isaac, and he was talking about that and how that's really the direction. If you're going to be starting a new business, like you have to be savvy on the back end to like get people to find your business. Yeah. So
yeah, it's scary and hard because I wasn't spending any money on ads. Now it's become more of a part of the budget.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like, I mean, Isaac brought up this point, like it's just you have to identify where your customers are going to be, and then also not make it feel like sales. Yeah. Right? Like
totally. Yeah, but there's a way to do that, and it's like it's funny because a lot of my sort of the way I've done ads is based on how other brands that I like have done it, and it's like, and I think the brand is just so personal anyways that it's like it does work to just have me be like, hey guys, we have a new batch of alpha hoodies, like look at these, and then I put them all on and clip it together, and then
it's pretty easy too, I bet, for you to do it if it's
it's more just like getting yourself out there to do it. You're like, okay, I'm gonna put a bunch of hoodies on and talk about it. It's like, but
well, that is the best way because you're like educating at the same time,
totally.
Like because it's harder to understand like what the product is if you can't actually feel it, touch it. Like, I've been lucky to live in Maine to be able to actually like try on some of the things that you have too, which really helps. But so when you can explain it, it's better for that customer who doesn't get that opportunity.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Edutainment content.
Yes.
Half education, half entertainment.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, he's just making shit up.
Yeah.
I mean that too. Yeah. But any, as we kind of come in towards the end of the episode, is there anything kind of coming down the horizon that you're like, if I didn't say this on the podcast, I'd feel like I missed?
Well, Pride hoodies. We're gonna have two styles of Pride hoodies. One will be a made to order alpha 90, so like this, very colorful. I'm not gonna show you now, but or maybe I should because we're
let's do it.
Yeah, so these are the alpha 90 Pride hoodies. They are just gonna be a great backpacking layer, and 10% of the sales go to Kindling Collective, and then we have these pre-made power grid hoodies, which are a little more subtle in color, sort of, but very sort of rainbowy as well. And this will also be, a portion of the sales will go to Kindling Collective. So, yeah, we're running those, and there's supposed to be an Outside Magazine article featuring them as well, so that should be cool.
Rad.
Yeah.
Big deal. You're like, why am I blowing up? I'm like, you're blowing up. You're on Outside Magazine, man.
Hopefully, what else? We're just always like adding little products here and there. I'd say like sign up for emails is a good way to just like make sure you see what's going on, and I give like special discounts or just like early access to stuff. We're gonna like add some pockets to Alpha sometime soon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but generally just we're trying to stock up more on inventory. So like if you're interested in the brand but you're a little wary of custom, we're going to be trying to have more and more available just on the website at all times, so you can try stuff out. And just, honestly, just email me and message me on Instagram. And for better or worse, I'm the one responding, and I'll do it almost immediately. So, yeah.
Well, and speaking of that, so like if somebody reached out to you right now and was like, I want a custom order, just set the framework for them, because I think it's important to have realistic expectations.
Yeah.
Like what's kind of the lead time?
Right now we're saying 5 to 7 weeks, and it's about that. Right now we have a real backload just from a sale that we did, but we're trying to keep it to 5 to 7 weeks. Yeah. Cool. And you can just go on the website and design your own and place the order.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Exactly. All right. Well, we have this segment that we close out every episode with, Voices from the Summit. Rapid fire questions, just gets the audience an opportunity to kind of like get to know you a little bit more, and have a fun way to kind of close out the episode. Cool. So I'll kick it off. So first question: you brought your coffee mug to the episode today.
Yes.
How fitting.
Cheers.
Coffee before or after the adventure?
Oh, I mean probably both, but before. Yeah, but I like to bring a little like instant coffee, so sometimes even like just put it in my water bottle and drink cold instant coffee. Yeah.
There you go.
Hardcore.
Depends how phases of the process.
Yeah. There's no
caffeine.
Favorite Maine trail?
Oh man, I mean honestly, like when we lived in Maine previously, before we were Utah, anyways, like 10 years ago, my first like big trip in Maine was just up to Katahdin, and did like a 4-day, like just a big loop, and it was just a great time. Fall, great weather. I was alone, slept in some lean-tos, and that's always going to be my sort of favorite. I'm trying to go up to Cutler Coast later in the summer and do like just that little thing there, and so hopefully that'll be my favorite. But
cool.
We'll see. Yeah.
Cool. Describe the future of Maine's outdoor recreation economy in one word.
Blowing up.
There's a hyphen in there.
Yeah.
That's so great. One item always in your pack.
If it's like a backpacking thing, probably like a pretty big external battery. I don't care how much it weighs. My phone is my map. I do a lot of like Gaia GPS tracking, so I like to like have my tracks going. I also just like to watch like a downloaded episode of something before bed sometimes. So I'm not willing to compromise on that. Yeah.
Respect it. If Sambob wasn't your career, what would be?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like, okay, I guess I could fall back on like the wildlife biology stuff and go back to doing that, and like I guess I could, and I might, but honestly, at this point, I feel like I would try to go into something else in the outdoor industry, and like I don't know what my expertise are at this point, but there's some things, I've learned a lot, and I think probably working in another Maine-based brand. Obviously, like Hyperlight would be a cool place to go, like Flowfold, like there's just a bunch of places that I think could be I really like the community, and it's a world that I'm like in now, and I think that would be probably, I don't know specifically, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's one trend that you'd like to see stick around?
Well, Alpha.
Yeah.
I really don't want this to like crumble into like somehow people realize that something's extremely wrong with it, and we're all but it's the fabric is really a huge part of the business right now, and so would love to keep it going, but would also love to see another fabric come out and like diversify a little bit, and we're always trying to add new fabrics in to try things out. Cool. Not everyone loves Alpha, so. Yeah.
You've talked a lot about backpacking throughout the episode, but I'm curious, besides backpacking, what's like one of your favorite ways to just unwind outside?
Outside. I mean, I do, so, you know, I'll bring my binoculars with me if I'm going out for like a little walk, just like casual walks. You know, I have a 4-year-old, so a lot of like the bigger adventures have like, you know, ceased for a bit. But so one of the ways that I get out is just like go to the Evergreen Cemetery here in Portland and go over to the ponds, and like it's a great place for birds, but also in the woods there's a lot of mushrooms in the fall. So I do a lot of mushroom foraging, black trumpets and hen of the woods and chicken of the woods and stuff like that. But there's like tons of black trumpets. So there was one year that I got like something like 80 pounds over like a couple of months, and I was like selling them to restaurants in town and just like giving away to everyone. And then last year there were actually 0 because there was no rain. But anyways, probably like going out and like mushroom foraging is like one of my favorite things to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
You need like a mushroom hoodie.
Yeah. Jordan did have a mushroom print that we might do at some point.
Oh, you should. What's your favorite bird?
Well, I mean, the saw-whet owl is pretty like emblematic of the brand and like my past, and my wife and I met or like kind of reconnected after college at this place, Hawk Ridge in Duluth, where I was working with hawks and owls, and so that's kind of like that's the bird, probably.
That's the bird.
Cool. If someone found a Sambob hoodie 10 years from now, right, and it is well worn, there's patches all over it, the stories are just like bursting from the seams, right? The person that just picked up that hoodie, if you weren't there to be able to tell the story, what do you hope that piece of product is able to say to them and go, this is what Sambob is, this is what we value, and like how that's part of the outdoor culture? Yeah,
I think like the hope with like a piece like that is that it was designed and ordered by somebody who was really looking to find something that like made them feel comfortable, both physically, just like very cozy, but also that it made them feel like them, you know, like it felt like it was expressive of how they felt just sort of personality wise or gender identity or anything. And it made them feel like I'm ready to go outside and like go on an adventure. And whether that adventure means like going on a long backpacking, trip, like doing a through hike, or honestly, like I want people to be able to buy these things and feel like, I feel great. Like I'm going to go for a walk down the street. Like I don't get outside very much, and I just want to like get outside. And this piece makes me feel like I can do that. And that's the goal with the brand, is just like make people feel good and like they can go outside and just feel comfortable in themselves. And I think like, you know, apparel, like performance fabrics, like are often, they feel very like directed towards people doing huge things. And I think they should be accessible to everyone, and they should be, you know, something that, people can feel like they don't have to like go on a huge adventure, but they can. But it's just like makes, that the brand is like there for whoever wants it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that is a wrap on a great conversation. So Sam, really, really appreciate you being able to invite us into your abode.
I love having people here. It's a good time.
So great.
And, see sort of the mess of what we're doing here.
Yeah. Oh no. I imagine there's going to be some behind the scenes footage for this episode that we will be able to highlight quite a bit.
Totally.
And we'll make sure like all the links for social, website, all that kind of stuff will get added in the episode description on all the streaming platforms. And one thing I would say to the audience is just like, this is a great conversation. We have lots of other great conversations that are coming down the line in this summer and into the fall. And so like, still, I just looked it up this morning, something like 70% of the people that are watching this, or you're connecting with a piece of content on one of the social media platforms, you're not following or subscribing. And so, yeah, sure, you might stumble upon a clip from this episode in your Reels tab, but that's kind of like left to chance. So if you hit that follow button, we can make sure that you find out those things. And as we potentially have some other developments coming down the line with the podcast, if you're following, you're that much more likely to be involved in those fun developments. So hit the follow button.
Just unfollow if you don't like it, but follow now. Yeah. It's so easy, and then, you might find you get some good stuff out of it.
Totally. Totally.
It's like shopping small, but for podcasts.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, in order for, like, you following and subscribing, you have no idea how much impact that has for Sam and I now running this small business and how we can make sure that the podcast continues to happen while we are still very much so in the early phase of we both have other jobs that subsidize this process.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Sam, thank you so much
guys.
again.
I really appreciate
this
it.
was such a good conversation.
And
I really enjoyed it.
until next time, we'll see you outside.
See you outside.